everybody. Happy New Year. This is Roddy coming to you from my home in Texas, the great state of Texas, the land of the free and the home of the cowboy. Awesome. Hey guys, every year we start out the year, and you'll see this everywhere. People say, this is the year of blank. And you get to fill in that blank. Whatever you want to put in that blank that gives you a sense of hope and faith and urgency and expectation for the year, fill in that blank. But every year, the prophets, the pundits, the prognosticators, the preachers, they start the year with this prophetic, supposedly prophetic word. I put that in quotations, and you'll understand why in just a moment, of this word of what God is saying, and it begins to define or outline what the year must be or what it can be. You know, these are nothing more than positive declarations to set an early tone for the year that's ahead. And it's good. It's necessary. It helps us. Again, it elevates our faith to believe that God is doing something significant in our life, and He is. But and so again, on the surface, this is okay, but it becomes problematic when we associate the name of the Lord to something that He hasn't actually expressed. We create a mental and spiritual dynamic that isn't consistent with the heart of God for what He wants to do in this season, or in this case, in this year within our life. And what happens is we try to obligate God to perform something or do something He never actually promised. And God doesn't have to do that. But when He doesn't accomplish what we declared, many times we get disappointed, we get frustrated, we lose heart, we lose hope. And that's why it's important that we have both. We have those positive declarations, but we also hear what God is actually saying in this season of our life. And so every year you're going to hear it. You hear the same prophecies over and over from the same people, the people that have the list, the people that are come together, the voices that are, the credible, the supposedly the people that know and hear from God. And again, we need to hear from these people. But if you go back the last 10, 15, even 20 years, most of these words are a recycled version of something that was said in a previous year. And again, it's okay because they're declarations of faith, but we get mixed up because we associate them as a word from God. And so every year you hear the same prophecies. It's the year of abundance. Have you heard that yet? This is the year of harvest. This is the year of prosperity, of multiplication, of increase, of restoration, of success. And listen, that's going to happen for some of you. I can declare that right now, just as a manner of knowing that there are people that are broke today. They're gonna have an economic turnaround tomorrow. There are people that have been in broken relationships. They're gonna have a restored home. There are people that physically or been sick and been, maybe have received a negative report, and God's going to touch them, and it's going to be a year of them of divine health and healing and intervention. Those things are going to happen. Yes, there are going to be people that this will be the greatest year of increase and success and happiness and fulfillment. That's beautiful and wonderful, and we receive that, we expect it, and we declare it. But for some people, it's also going to be a year of trauma and tragedy and loss and opposition and obstacles and uncertainty and chaos. So how do we interpret the juxtaposition of these two distinct realities with the Word of God? The Bible teaches us that it rains on the just and the unjust. So what on one side, it's going to be positive, it's going to be wonderful, and it's going to be optimistic, it's going to be health and restoration and all these things that we talked about in terms of abundance and increase and harvest. But on the other side, you're going to have another group of people, and they may not have the kind of level of faith that you have, or maybe they have a greater faith than even you have, but they're going to face these times of difficulty. So how do we bring into balance these different things? And just to keep it in context of what I'm talking about in this is the year of. And I do want you, and I would encourage you, write it down, put this is the year of, and fill in that blank with a word, with a phrase that you can wrap your faith around, that will encourage you and increase your faith to believe for something new, to dream again. Maybe this is the year of a restored dream. Maybe this is the year that you start that business, but put it in the blank, but don't associate it with God saying that if God's not saying that. Please hope you understand. And as we finish this out, I just want to give you 5 things that will help us have balance within these two ideas. And first is we need to understand that there is a difference between personal declarations of faith and prophetic words. A personal declaration of faith, it's motivated out of your desire, it's motivated out of your emotion, your expectation, what you are believing for. And you do need to decree things, because we don't get something if we don't ask for it, if we don't decree it. The Bible teaches us if we decree something, it can be established. But again, we have to be very careful not to associate our own desire of the motivation of our own heart and say that's what God is saying. No, it might be something God has put in your heart and He's manifesting it through your mouth. Praise God for that. But again, make sure that you don't misappropriate whether it's your heart, your mind, or your spirit. And here is if it's a true prophetic word from God, basically it is, what is God saying in this season of your life? That's what prophecy is. It's what is God conveying? What is the message? What is He trying to communicate to you and I for this moment in our life, for this season in our life? Every year, Michelle and I, we get together and we do the same thing. We're like, okay, this is going to be a year of. And I've usually spent time in prayer and meditation and asking the Lord for something, and He'll usually give me something that's for us. Now, again, if you're a leader, if you're a pastor, if you are in charge of an organization, then you have to have that word or that vision projecting for the year for your people, and people need to rally around that. I'll get to that in just a moment. But I'm talking about you and I as individuals, or in our case, in our family, in our home, and with our marriage. What is it that we believe that God is saying for us for this year? One year it was a year of acceleration, and things went so fast we couldn't even, our heads were spinning that year. Things were going so fast. A lot of times God will give me a word, and it's just something He's going to teach me for the year, and I'll see that manifest itself consistently through an entire year. This 2020. Probably for some of you, God was teaching me discipline. He was teaching me patience. Things that I thought I was doing pretty well in, but God obviously knew I needed to go to a deeper level in those things. And so those were the lessons that He was giving me. And so that became what defined my year. All right. So we have to know what is the distinction between what is our heart motive and what is God actually saying. And maybe they align. Hopefully they agree, but sometimes they don't. And we have to be okay with that. And again, we still decree by faith those things that we desire, those things that we hope for, the things that we're putting our faith in. We have to have those goals and those visions to reach forward. But we also need to be sensitive to what is God saying to you specifically for now. What is this moment going to look like? And maybe God doesn't answer, and that's okay. We have to be able to embrace the uncertainty even of God, the abstract things, the things He hasn't put together in our life yet. So again, first we have to understand there is the distinction between these two things. Second is we have to make decisions and take actions that are consistent with both the declarations or the decrees and the Word of God. Because if we're going to have something, we can't just speak it. We have to take action in agreement with it. And I know this, anytime God has given me a word, whether it was something that was a defining moment, or whether it was a dream or a vision or an idea, it comes to me and I get so excited about it, but then I have to realize that, okay, this is a word from God and God is going to bring this to pass in my life. But now I have to figure out what are the steps that I have to take? What are the things that I have to grow in? As Michelle and I have been launching more and more into the business world, I'm having to grow and I have to learn. And those are things that God has promised for me that would manifest, that would multiply, that would bring increase into my life. But I know where my skill set is. I know where my knowledge base is. And in order to get where I believe that God has called me to go, I have to be able to take action in reference to what I'm trying to get to. So yes, God will make things happen and God will create opportunities and He will position us for success and He will bring supernatural things into our life. But we also have to say, okay, where am I and what can I do to get me from where I am to where I desire to go or where I feel like God is taking me to? A lot of times I've given people words and they just sit and they're like, well, God said it was going to happen and so it's going to happen. But they don't realize maybe there's something they need to do. Maybe God's told you that you're going to travel. I know travel is a tricky thing right now with what's going on in the world. But if God's giving you that word and you're like, well, I'm going to travel to the nations as a missionary, as a voice for God, as an ambassador for the kingdom, but you never get a passport. that passport's not just going to supernaturally arrive in your mailbox. There's some step of action you can take. And so whatever you declare for this year, if this is going to be your greatest year of financial increase, then you need to begin to think, what are the actions that I need to take that are congruent with that desire? What are the things that I need to invest my life into so that I can build that portfolio, if I will? What if maybe you feel like you're supposed to invest something? Well, study, learn what are the things I can do to invest correctly, right? And so make decisions and take actions, because we can have desires, but our desires never determine our destiny. It is our decisions that determine our destiny. So if you want this to be a year of abundance, then make decisions that are congruent with that desire. If you want to have that great year of success, if you want to have that year of restoration, what are the actions and commitments that you can take step one, day one, or in this case, day 2 or 3, whenever you're watching this, that will bring you into alignment with that declaration? A lot of times we make our wish list, we make our hope list, we say this is going to be the year of something, but then we don't begin to align our life through prioritization to bring those things into fruition. So we got to do that. We got to take those necessary steps, right? Action and taking positive, consistent, right action will get you from where you are to where you want to go, where you want to be. Thirdly, you have to establish an attitude that you will have an understanding of the ebbs and flows of any given year or season, right? Life happens, and Michelle and I, we have this idea that we really solidify our faith around, and that is that life doesn't just happen to us, life happens for us. And we take that from the description in Romans 8:28 that says that all things are working together for our good. And so no matter what happens in a new season or a new year, we have to understand there's going to be ups and downs and ebbs and flows and changes and uncertainty and sometimes confusion, and we don't know what to do all the time. But we position ourselves, we posture ourselves with this attitude that, somehow, some way, this is going to work for our benefit. Maybe we grow through a failure. Maybe we learn a lesson that we needed to for life. Maybe what we thought was one thing turns out to be something else, but no matter what, it's going to work for our good. And when you have that attitude, you're able to embrace the things that don't always work out for yourself, because you have a better outlook and a better attitude towards those kinds of things. And so when you're declaring something, if what you have declared is not working out, that's okay. Have a good attitude that, it's going to, it's going to still work back in the direction of my favor. Life is a benefit. Life is a gift. And we're going to be grateful. We're going to express that gratitude. And we're going to have this position in our mind, our spirit, our will, our emotions, and even physically in our body. We're going to position ourselves to say, you know what? This is still going to work out for me. So we understand the ebbs and flows of life, that one day we're going to be on a mountaintop. Another day we might be in the pit, in the valley. But you know what? No matter what happens, it's going to work to our good. So it's that understanding that life is transitional. It's always moving, and we can't get stuck in that it didn't happen according to my plan, so I have to abandon everything and just take it as it is. And next year's a new time and it's going to work, and we'll go from there. And so then fourth, guys, you have to, this for me is so encouraging to think about. This for me is, we have to hear and understand for ourselves. Now, again, we mentioned something about when you're a leader or you're part of a community or network or a corporation, there is usually a projection for the year of a vision or an idea, a theme, or a word that says this is the year of. And we should, if we're part of that community or that network or that business or that apparatus, we need to be able to connect to that, to run with that, to be in agreement with that. But we don't want to limit ourselves. Don't permit yourself to get stuck in one word for a community and neglect the declarative word of faith for yourself, or the prophetic word that God would bring into your life for you, for your family, for your individual things. Because it's so important for you and I to make sure we have that focus, that vision, that dream. That's for us specifically, because God speaks to the individual, not just a community. And so I want to encourage you to make sure that you don't miss out on opportunities and other possibilities, because God may have a dream for you that is distinguishably, different than that of something else. And so what I've seen happen is people say, well, it's a year of abundance for the organization or the community or the people I'm with, but I'm in a position of abundance. Okay, that's okay. You still connect with them, but maybe you need to focus more on how can you be in a position to better help other people. Or maybe you're able to use some of those resources that you've gained and position yourself economically and help other people to achieve a higher status in life, or use those abilities and those talents that you're already excelling in. Maybe they're saying, hey, this is a year of the, acquiring new talents or abilities or gifts. And you're like, hey, I'm pretty well set in that category. Maybe you can focus your energy on something else. Maybe this is the year you need to focus your energy on your own health, on your own relationships. And maybe that's not the corporate structure or the word or the vision this is the year of, but that's where you have to be able to still connect on that communal level, but be able to also come back and say, you know what, as an individual, I have a commitment to growth, to change, to be that better version of myself. And in order to do that, I have to give myself permission to focus on maybe a different area. And that's okay. And giving yourself permission to do that is important moving forward in your life. And so again, I don't want you to limit yourself because you're only listening to other people. Right? You have to hear and decide for yourself. That's the great thing. I think one of the most beautiful and most dangerous thing that God has ever given to us is the ability to decide for ourselves. He's given us freedom of choice. And so you have the ability to decide the life you're going to live, where you're going to go, who you're going to do life with, the things you're going to invest your time, your energy, and your resources into that. And so you don't just sit back and let that happen. You take that proactive position and action of saying, hey, I'm going to commit, I'm going to take action, I'm going to create, I'm going to do, I'm going to accomplish, I'm going to be. And you do that for yourself. You hear and you decide. It's so important. So when you get a word from God, you're listening and you're deciding, hey, I'm going to obey that, I'm going to walk in that, I'm going to receive that. If you're making that declaration of faith, that's coming out of that place of heartfelt passion, that place of this is what I really desire, or that this is what I know I need to do. Sometimes that becomes your declaration. This is going to be the year of taking back my health. This is going to be the year of restoring that relationship. This is going to be the year that I finally write that book. I finally, create that podcast. I finally, go on that trip. You have the power to decide. So take it. All right, and then fifthly, guys, and lastly, and there's more other things we could talk about, but just in terms of this time and this season within a new year, is embrace the unscripted things that in your life that don't specifically match what you have anticipated. There are lessons in failures. There's blessings in the unknown, and there's adventures in the unintentional. So this year doesn't get lost because of a setback, a hardship, a failure, or a disappointment. Those are actually some of the things that position you to launch you into that place of growth, or into that thing, that dream that you didn't even know existed. Sometimes that happens through that failure or that setback. So when the unscripted things happen, and they will happen, when the chaotic and the confusing things happen, and they will happen, just embrace that, you know what? I'm not going to allow the fear of uncertainty or the unknown to stop me from moving forward. And ultimately, guys, that's really my push and my challenge for you for 2021 is let this be the year that you have some forward momentum in the direction of your goals, your dreams, your visions, and your heart and your passions. Find your courage and find your faith and do something extraordinary. This can be the greatest year of your life. You can declare it, you can decree it, and you can make it happen. And my word for you would simply be that you are in the driver's seat towards your destiny. You are the architect of your future. Your future can be now. This can be the greatest moment of your life. Yes, we listen to the words that other people are saying that is a word from God, but we also have to discern what is the heart of man and what is the voice of God, what is in our own heart and what is in the heart of God. Hopefully they can all come together in this beautiful divine convergence of of God's grace and God's goodness, connecting with our desires and our dreams. Hopefully that's what happens. Listen, I believe it's going to be a beautiful and extraordinary year for you. Some bad things may happen, but rise above it, learn from it, grow through it, and be something more, do something greater than you've ever done before. This is the year of you fill in the blank. We'll talk to you next time, guys. God bless.